Yeah.
Pretty close, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's letting me start another one, so we'll have panel part 2. Yeah, there we go. I have my computer guy do that, though I have no clue.
Okay, I had already turned the soldering iron on, so I'm going to go ahead and show you how to solder this.
Just mine if I want to.
On a panel this size, you can pretty much flux the whole thing. Ooh, didn't see that. That's something you definitely have to fix that. I didn't see that this piece had twisted and came out. So you want to make sure that you also want to look and see like that everything looks like it's lined up. If you have to move something around a little bit, that's where a lead knife works good too, to kind of shove stuff over a little bit, because you can get into the crack of the lead and shove lead and glass and everything over. Now when you're soldering, you really want, when you got your joint, you really want your solder joint to come out equal distance on all 4 spots, so that the more consistent it is. You don't want like the solder joint way out here on one side and short. Matter of fact, you don't want it way out there no matter what. But what you want to do then, it's best if you solder across the joint rather than doing like this. If you go across the joint, you're going to have more control over a nice even joint. I'm going to come back to that. But if you solder, so you want your stuff to look consistent. It's kind of just like what you're doing with the I mean, you know, it's different than doing the foil, but basically the principle is the same thing. You want a nice, smooth joint. This, for some reason, this zinc, I should have probably cleaned it off. It had felt kind of sticky. I don't know. It felt. Now something like that, I want to wait on that and come back to it and smooth it out.
Because you melt the lead or what?
Yeah, just if I come back on it, will work better. But you don't need to get your lead out way far. You want it to look, nice and consistent. And if you do a cross like that, then to try to do it this way, you're gonna have a more consistent soldering joint on it. And again, this is the same thing as with copper foil. You never want to start soldering a project unless you can finish it. If you can't get it done, don't start soldering it. You don't want to leave that flux and stuff corroding on there. And then you're going to come back the next day and then really regret. You'll remember that I told you that.
So if you had to do one side, you could clean it and then do the other side later, or otherwise you'd...
I wouldn't even do that.
Right, I mean, if something came up,
If it's an emergency, yeah, but generally, depending on the size of the panel, like this is not a big deal because, this panel is small
I think you got one
enough
more
that, this panel is small enough.
Right.
That's $5. If you miss a solder joint,
Is it
it's
$5?
$5 fine.
Oh,
Who's collecting?
that's what I'm saying. Maybe everybody gets $5.
Yeah.
But you generally, if you can't do both sides, especially on a bigger panel, where it's like you take more of a risk of breaking pieces by going back and washing it before it's completed.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah.
Now the underside's probably, you might have a little more of a joint on this side just because, you're looking at the other side. If the other side's better, this side will be better, but you might have, for some reason, a little bit more of a joint on this space on this side.
How do you feel about flux paste?
There's no need to do that.
What is it?
It's a paste rather than a liquid. There's no reason to use a paste, so I wouldn't. Since it came through, I'm gonna wait. So how many pieces do you think you'd have foiled by now?
Let's just not go there.
Okay, you talked me into one of them irons.
One of the irons.
Yeah, especially on this, your little iron
Want me to
is
hand you one?
probably not gonna be.
Well, my big one's too hot, and my little one's not good enough. So. Hey, what's money? The kids is money anyway.
I'm telling you, spend your money. They don't care.
I'm gonna get there.
They care, they're the problem.
Instead of leaving them money, you're leaving them a soldering iron.
There you go.
Oh, the handy gamer?
Right there, I need a bag. Hey, last bag.
What's
Are you
that?
gonna need them for that?
What's that?
Handy gamer.
Handy hangers.
This is the last bag. I guess I won't buy it if you need it here.
Yeah, he might have some somewhere else.
Oh, I've got the whole big bag there.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, you will need more of the handy hangers. Well, you had two, so if you only did one panel,
Right.
you should be good. But if you're one of the overachievers and done more than one panel, you'll need to get some more.
Yeah, I'm not one of those.
It's my goal.
To be an overachiever.
Yes.
Now you can if you're building a really big project and you and you like, being at home, you've been working on the project for months, your lead might actually start to corrode a little bit, and if the flux wasn't working as well, you could either still wool it or use one of those little the little brush, the little short steel wool brushes. So now on this, we got to just solder up the ends and do the do the put the handy hangers in it. So now what we normally would do, we'd take this to the grout table and grout it. On a panel this small, it's not really rattling. It's tight enough. It's not really rattling. You could still wool this and patina it with what I usually like. If I'm going to patina something that we're not grouting, I'll take a Q-tip and use a Q-tip on it, because there again, you don't want that to get on the glass. So, but what we're going to do on these is we'll probably grout them. At least I'll show you on one how to grout. So that's the lesson. So is there any questions? One thing I didn't show you, I think maybe I did, but if you got, let's say you got a lead line coming off like that, one thing, you can use the lead knife and cut through, but even that'll smash it a little bit. If you're going to use a lead knife, you need a sharpening stone by you so that you can be constantly sharpening your lead knife and using your lead knife to so that your lead knife is not smashing your lead. Because with the lead knife, you're actually cutting through from the top. But what you can do is, what I just did was I just cut the heart out of the lead. So now I can come back in and I can cut a really sharp corner on that you would normally never be able to do. And if this piece was actually curved, then after I got the glass, I could actually bend this over a little and curve it over to the glass or to the other lead. So that's on something that's that you got a really sharp angle at, taking the heart out of it and then cutting it at an angle works really good, because you can get a really sharp cut on that.
Yeah, you said you had some that you were going to go back to. Does that just come back and touch them, or
I did
they
that.
don't hurt nothing? They just come back and zap
No,
them?
I mean, like right there. I missed that one. So if you miss a joint, I mean, sometimes we'll find, even on the grouting table, we'll find that where we missed the joints. So we'll just take and still wool it and solder it there. I've got a panel from another stained glass shop that they had missed joints all over it. Their joints were really rough and everything. I mean, but you can, so that if a panel goes out